Hi there and welcome to this video about creating tables in Design View with Microsoft Access. Now before we do any creating of tables, we need to be in a position where we've got a database design of some sort. Now that could come from an entity relationship diagram or perhaps a data dictionary that you've been provided with, or in my case I've got some data that I've normalized here, and I have got a solution some of you might recognize from a normalization video that I've done. Okay, and I've got a normalized data set here. Okay, this is the structure for my tables, and I've been manipulating the data and got a set of relations that looks a bit like this. Now you don't need to have data in order to be able to create a table in Access, as long as you've got an idea of what the fields are going to be and what their data types are. But that's outside of the scope of this video really. Just the idea is just to say you must have a database design really before you start to create the tables. Otherwise, the structure won't allow your database to work properly. So I've got that there, and previously I've created an Access file here, a database file for the pizza shop, which is the example we've just gone through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here, and to create the table in Design View, I'm going to go to Create and Table Design. Now if I choose Table, it opens a blank table ready for me to just enter data, and it tries to figure it out from there. But good database designers should have an idea of the structure of their database, and we should just go to Table Design. Now in here, for each of the columns or fields in a table, we need to put in the field name, the data type, and potentially a description, although the description is not required. But we do need the first two here. We do need the name of the field and what the data type is. So let's just go back to a table here. I'm going to create the order table here. So I've got order number, order date, customer ID and total price. Okay, so I'm going to put the field names in first. So this was order number. Okay, I'm going to just leave these as text for now. Order date, customer ID and total price. So order date. Order date. Was it total price? Okay, so I've got my field names in there now. I now need to think about the actual data types. So what type of data am I going to be putting in these fields? Now when we set a data type in a database, what it effectively is a rule. It's a rule that says that it gets checked when we enter data into that field, that says, are you actually putting in data into this field that's actually allowed or permitted? So with order number, if we have a look at the values that we've got here, the two values I've got are numbers. Okay, they don't contain any text, and they don't have any leading zeros, which would require us to put them in as text. So in this case, this is numbers. So I'm quite happily going to put that in as a number. Now, if you are doing your database without any data to work from, then obviously you'd need to check what the what the format of various fields is with the person who understands the data that's going to go into the system. But in this case, we have some data, so that's what I'm working from. Now, the order date, okay, as we can see, is actually a date. Okay, so I'm going to put that in, date and time. Okay, and the other thing to mention there is that with dates, we sometimes have a format for a date. Okay, so I'm going to put that in. If we go to Format, here, okay, and it's going to be this one, the short date format. So that sort of says how it's going to look in the actual database. If we go to customer ID, let's have a quick look at that. So in this one, we've got text and numbers, which means we must put it in as text. And we can also see that it's got 5 characters, certainly with the data that we've been given so far. So what I'm going to do there is choose text, and at the moment I'm going to set that field size to 5. Now obviously, again, you'd have to check that with someone who understands the system with regards to whether or not that is the case for all of the data, or whether or not it's likely that we need to perhaps give a bit of expansion room, maybe set this to 10 or 20, you know, depending on the situation. But if they're absolutely positive they'll only never need 5 characters for the field size, then setting it like that not only saves some space, but also means that we perhaps might be able to pick up on errors if someone's putting in the trying to put in 6 characters when we know it must be 5. And finally, total price, which looks like it's a currency. So we're going to choose currency from there. Okay. Now at this stage, if I try to save the table, it would ask me to put in a primary key. Now this is quite an important part of the table process. So let's just have a look at this. So if I give this table a name here and call it order, which is what the table's about, and click OK, it will say, well, there's no primary key defined. Now it says a primary key isn't required, but it is highly recommended. And a table must have a primary key in order to define relationships between this table and other tables in the database. Now we know that we do need to do that in my case because I do have more than one table, and I can see that I've got fields like customer ID that are going to relate to each other. So I do need a primary key. I don't necessarily have to define it now, but in this case I'm going to. And it says, well, do you want to create one now? Now, if we click yes, okay, what it's actually done there is it's created another field called ID, and given it auto number, and just created one for us, like an extra field. Now, I don't really want that to happen, so what I'm going to do is take the primary key off of there, and I'm going to delete that field. I'm just going to select it there and press delete to get rid of it. Now, actually what I'd like is the order number to be the primary key. So the primary key, don't forget, is the field that makes sure that it's unique in the database. So I'm going to click on primary key there. Okay, and I've got my primary key there on the table. Okay, now it has been saved. We've got order there. So it's all fine. I'm just going to click on save again anyway. And just so as we understand how this works, if I go to order over here now and double click, then it opens it ready for me to put in some data. Okay, so as an example, if I wanted to, I could put 1250 there and 12th of the 11th 2012. Okay, customer ID is AAC45 and the total price is £27.50. Notice when I'm doing this, I'm not typing in the pound sign because it's automatically put in there because it's a currency field. So I'm able to put in data like that, and basically to flip between the two views, over on my thing here, I can, if I right click and choose design view, that gets me back to design view, or I can right click and open, or I could double click, that gets me back into the other view. Okay, so that's how we flip between the two views in the table. So that basically is how we create a table in Microsoft Access 2010 using the table design view. And also, just as another note here, if we want to create another table in the database, we just go to create table, and we've got table 1 there now, and that's another table ready for us to create. So I'm going to close that. I don't want to do that right now, but that's how we do that. So hopefully that will help you get started creating tables in your database.